In this presentation, I hope I'm able to increase society's awareness, understanding, and acceptance of autism, neurodiversity, and differences, therefore reducing the need for autistic females to camouflage. And throughout the presentation, I'm going to use the term autism to refer to the clinical diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. Unless I am quoting, then I'll use the full term, autism spectrum disorder. So again, some members of the autism community feel that the label disorder, when I say autism spectrum disorder, produces stigma. So that's why I'll mainly use autism. And I'll also use identity-first language, autistic person, for example, throughout to respect the preferences of some autistic people. Now, research is showing that autism is currently diagnosed at a rate of approximately 3 males to 1 female. This is where this discussion is coming from. Although some evidence suggests that the rate may be as low as 1.8 to 1 female. And an overpopulation prevalence rate in the United Kingdom of 1%, which is 1.8% of males, as I said, 0.2% females. Still, all the statistics is showing that more males are identified as autistic after a diagnosis, more than females. So, autism is more commonly diagnosed in males than in females across all age groups. When screening the entire population using the gold standard assessments, for example, ADOS, current estimates suggest around 3 males receive an autism diagnosis for every female. In clinical samples, who have already received autism diagnosis, that ratio is higher at over 4 males to each female. In individuals with intellectual disability, the ratio is closer to 2:1. Still, all the statistics is pointing that more males are getting diagnosed than females. That is why my topic is, why are autistic females missed? So, one of the assumptions and which could contribute to women getting a misdiagnosis or getting missed during diagnosis could be camouflaging. So, autistic masking is the conscious or unconscious suppression of natural autistic responses and adoption of alternatives across a range of domains. So here, we are saying that masking is conscious, or it can be unconscious, suppression of those natural autistic traits we know about. And this is an unsurprising response to the deficit narrative and accompanying stigma and marginalization that has developed around autism. So mainly camouflaging, masking is rising because autistic people are worried, are concerned that if they are seen to be autistic, there is going to be a lot of stigma towards them because of the condition. They could get marginalized from social networks, from social living, from their families, from friends. they can get marginalized, so they camouflage, they mask their autistic behaviors. And camouflaging refers to behaviors autistic people may adapt to mask autism in order to pass as non-autistic. So the whole point here is that autistic people are camouflaging so that no one can see that they are autistic. And again, this is a response to the fact that autistic people are stigmatized in our society, hence camouflaging. And autistic adults are often careful about disclosing their diagnosis. So imagine someone going to work, they qualify for the job, but they are not happy to disclose their autistic. And may behave in a specific way to conceal their autism in some situations, which means that if they're going to get the job, when they're camouflaging, they're going to say like that. But the consequences to them, we will discuss them later. So that is all camouflaging, which comprises both masking certain behaviors and compensating with others to manage people's perceptions of certain stigmatized behaviors. So examples of camouflaging start from making eye contact during a conversation. Research has shown that some autistic people struggle to make eye contact. So some of them, even if they struggle to make eye contact, they will end up learning, try every day to do that eye contact so that they're not labeled autistic. Using learned phrases or pre-prepared jokes in a conversation, mimicking others' social behaviors, imitating facial expressions or gestures, learning and following social scripts. One may also learn to consciously speak more quietly or not stand too close to another person, not to make personal remarks, perhaps as a conscious goal to model their behavior or neurotypical peer in order to gain greater social acceptance. So the whole issue here is that they want to be accepted, autistic people. But why are they going to this level? Is because society stigmatizes them, which means they are not accepted as one of those in that society or the norm in that society. And here I've got lived experiences of participants in a research carried by Bradley in 2021. Participants reported needing to camouflage because of lack of awareness, understanding, and acceptance of autism in society. Camouflaging helped some escape abuse, bullying, and enabled them to not feel like a burden on society. I remember discussing with someone here on my network, on LinkedIn, mentioning that, yeah, camouflaging was okay for that person. She's autistic because she managed to go high school without any problems because she was camouflaging. But the question is this thriving or surviving? When they do that, are doing this just to survive? Is this okay with them, autistic people? Or it's a means of survival for them? You can see here again from Bailey and Gasol in 2019, they carried their research, and I've quoted them here. They quoted autistic individuals saying, one of them is saying, when I'm sort of in the grips of my comorbid disorders that come with it, like anxiety, depression, OCD, I dislike it more. But, I try not to personally identify with it. Because during my low periods of time, it makes me feel like I'm broken in a way. And another one saying, I don't want to be stereotyped. That's why I camouflage. I'm black too, on top of that. So people have certain types of stereotypes and certain types of ideals associated with that. So when you also say that you are autistic, it's like that another building block for them. So they tend not to disclose their condition. And this one goes well. I wouldn't say I really belong in a community of sorts. Like, okay, so for years, back when I was younger, my dad tried to force me into these social groups who involved other people on the autism spectrum. And I think the problem was that he was trying to force something that needed to come naturally. That's why I'm always saying we should not aim to change autistic people. We should aim to work with them, accommodate them. That's neurodiversity. And another one I was saying in the research, it's not easy for me to be open about autism because people don't know what to do with information. They have preconceived notions. It might cause things like being singled out of or being perceived as this preconceived notion of what a person is like instead of what I am as an individual. So the people I've told tend to be only other people who are openly autistic or are people who are openly disabled in other ways because of, like I said, the fear of stigmatization. So why are so many females missed again? There is an increased likelihood that female autistic traits will be attributed to other causes. So there's that possible link that when autistic females go for diagnosis, maybe the autism is attributed to other causes, not autism. Standardized assessment measures that may not be sensitive enough to capture autistic females who experience and express their autism in unique and nuanced ways. So here we are saying maybe women have got a different way of showing, expressing their autism, but the diagnostic tools are not designed to match or to meet this unique type of autism expression. Some autistic women do not feel the need to have their identity validated by the medical model of disability. So here, the medical model of disability, we are talking of where we say the person has to be cured. The person has got an illness which needs treatment. It needs medicine. What they would prefer, rather than the medical model of disability, is something like the social model of disability, which is saying an autistic person is as they are. Let's try to change the environment and accommodate them. Let's work with them and find ways where we can work together, either autistic or not autistic. So another possible reason is access to sensitive and specific screening measures may be an empowering tool that allows some to assert and define their own autistic identity. Because some are more assertive in their relationships, we are talking of females here, opinions, and in advocating for their needs, which means they are likely to be missed again. Because remember, autism is linked to challenges with their social communication. So if they are coping to do that, to communicate, then they can be missed as not being autistic, simply because they are assertive. And there's a problem here that so much research has been using male samples for so many years. and recognition of autism and the current methods of diagnosis are based on stereotypes of autism as a male condition. So that needs to change as well, because if we are preset that it's a male condition, then we are likely to miss many, many women because we are set, our diagnosis, everything is set that it's for male. And extrapolating a largely male model of autism to females could be problematic as well if the phenotypic presentation of autism often differs in women. So if women have got a different phenotype presentation of autism, then we look at this, looking at the male model of autism, we end up missing autistic women as well during diagnosis. And females reported more lifetime sensory symptoms and fewer social communication difficulties than men. Hence again, social communication difficulties. If they are coping with that, they can be missed as well. Whereas men struggle more with that. Compared to autistic males, autistic females are more able to demonstrate reciprocal conversation and are more motivated to initiate friendship. And once they manage that, to have friendships around them, once they're able to initiate a conversation which is reciprocal, then they can be missed again as not being autistic. Social challenges of autistic boys are more obvious than social challenges of girls, because girls looked in a research by Gold 2017, typically, just look like any other developing girl, spending significant time talking and engaging and weaving in and out of groups, whereas boys were struggling to do that. And then untrained observers are less likely to pick up difficulties shown by autistic girls. So training again comes into play here. If the girls or the females are able to come and chat and talk to you, have a conversation where, it's reciprocal, autism can be missed. And remember, these diagnostic tools, most of them are based on asking questions and observation as well, which is behavioral. And the interpretation made by the person who is observing is subjective. So perhaps females express their autism in ways which do not meet current diagnostic criteria. That's a research recently by Howard, Pride and Manley. Diagnostic processes are less likely to identify females, particularly those without intellectual disability. And then we've got a female protective effect, research done by Robinson and others in How, Pride and Manley. They discovered that female protective effect is based on proposed genetic and environmental factors affecting autism development. So females require greater environmental and genetic risks than males to express the same degree of autistic character. Females are protected from autistic characteristics relative to males with a comparable level of risk factors as well. So here's bringing environmental and genetic risks. That is for a female to show that needs to be at a greater level, a greater environmental and genetic risk. Autistic females possess relatively more spontaneous, non-inherited mutations associated with autism than males. And a greater genetic hit is required, I repeat that again, a greater genetic hit is required for females to meet the diagnostic threshold. This implies that an innate protective factor in females, which results in reduced behavioral expressions of autistic characters when the genetic risk of autism is equivalent to that of males. This is all, again, an argument on female protective effect by Gilman et al. And now the effects of camouflaging and masking are not very good anyway, because it leads to underdiagnosis. Many women, we've got hundreds of women possibly who have been missed all their ages into adulthood, into old age. They are autistic, but they have been missed because of these reasons right here. And then they suffer because they do not receive much needed diagnosis, much needed support, much needed services. And on top of that, with negative effects on their mental health and well-being. We say that many autistic people learn how to communicate and behave in a way everyone wishes them to, but it's alien to them. So it's depressing and it's exhausting. So trying to fit in will cause lack of understanding of oneself and stress, which can lead to a meltdown in the end. And longing to fit in with other non-autistic, maybe it could be people at school or other workmates, may also influence camouflaging behaviors, which results in psychological and emotional state. I mentioned earlier then that some were saying camouflaging may help them to go through life, secondary school and everything, social events. But it also has been shown to produce negative psychological outcomes. So the danger of camouflaging being seen as a female-only coping strategy is that clinicians may not recognize camouflaging in males. Once we affix that camouflaging again is a female coping strategy, there is also a danger that those males who camouflage can be missed as well. So this means that any associated mental health needs related to camouflaging might be missed as well. So it can lead to depression, mental health problems, and those problems might be missed again in the end, or not treated at all, and they need support effectively. So it is therefore virtually vitally important for clinicians and professionals to do better understand camouflaging in autistic people. Some individuals are only identified later in life and may fly under the radar for many years, partly because of learned strategies to conceal social difficulties. These late diagnosed individuals tend to suffer from concurrent mental health challenges, potentially related to long-term stress in adaptation to daily life in the society. So, this is what we are saying here, that there are so many reasons to why camouflaging happens with autistic individuals, but we want to learn more about it, and we want to understand more about it so that less autistic people will have to camouflage. We have to accept them as they are and live in a society where neurodiversity is respected. And you can see here on that slide now, if you want to read more of my articles, you can read them on my research guides. You can click any of the topics I've covered, and continue please to watch my YouTube channel with all the presentation. Every research I do, every reading I do, I make a video of it, and then we share. Hopefully, somewhere, we are helping both autistic people and non-autistic people as well, so that they are more accommodating. Thank you very much.